Hey, Coach, when you get started on basketball, you got listed as one of the favorites for, mentioned for Coach of the Year. What did that mean to you?
It means a lot because I've grown in the game. I thank God for that because, my team is responding to what we're doing. And, again, it's a great honor because it's putting us in a light, not just me, but it's putting the city and the University of Memphis in a good light.
Penny, I know you don't pay a ton of attention to bracketologists and whatnot, but you're aware of it. And since Sunday, a lot of these guys are now projecting you guys, despite the non-conference resume, as like a 7 seed. I got a two-part for you. One, given that largely has come from 2 conference losses and I guess the Wichita State loss at home, do you find that kind of ridiculous in a way?
It's expected. I think that when you penalize someone for their non-conference schedule or for their conference losses and not what you've done, I think that's really weird because you're putting the teams that we beat in position to be great. They have handled business by beating the teams that they're supposed to beat. But when you beat those guys and you have the amount of quad 1 and quad 2 wins that we have, they're supposed to mean something. But I think margin of victory is coming into play in a lot of this. So I really don't know. A win just isn't a win anymore.
Second part to that, you talk about how the lack of the conference doesn't get any respect. Hypothetically, do you think you guys would be in a better position if instead of 11-2 in the AAC, you were 75 in the Big 12 or the Big 10 because they might put more respect on that?
Yeah, for sure. You can be 6-6 in the Big 12 or the SEC, and you'll be good to go. You'll still be last 4 out, next 4 in, whatever. It's just how it works. It's how they respect the conferences, and that's unfortunate for us.
You mentioned quad 1 wins. You picked up an extra one yesterday, kind of unusual situation. Did you follow any of that?
I heard about the San Francisco going to a quad 1. I figured San Francisco, at the time that we played them, was really daggone good, and I felt like they would do really well in their conference, and they have. And I thought UNLV would do just as well, and they haven't. But at the end of the day, I was shocked to see that be a quad 1, but I knew that they could be pretty good.
Because they counted it as a neutral game at first, and they changed it to a true road game. Did it feel? Do you remember that game? Did it feel like a true road game or like a neutral game?
Obviously, playing in a smaller arena on UF's campus, USF's campus, San Francisco's campus, would have been different. But playing them in Oakland, 15 minutes from their campus, and still having their home crowd, to me, it's still a home game. It's not we're 2 time zones away, and it definitely was a true road game for us.
Did you follow that process at all, or did you just kind of allow the news to come?
I didn't follow the process. I'm starting to, see more things because obviously it's all over social media. It just gets weirder every time, you watch it because it's like teams that have no quad 1 wins are ahead of us in the net. I've started to see some of that. I don't know how any of that works. Can we just get back to wins and losses and who you played and how that works?
Hey, Penny, you've had a week off. I know you had some nicks and injuries. Could you give us an injury report of you guys so far? Is anybody healed or anybody slipped?
I think Tyrese is feeling really, really well because he's practiced all this week. Even though they had 2 off days, he's practiced all this week. PJ had a toe. I don't think anybody else had any kind of injury, so we're blessed in that area, so thank God for that.
Coach, what's the hardest part about losing the way you did on Sunday and, having to sit in that for basically a whole week?
Having a 2-point lead with 19 seconds to go with the ball. That makes it really hard.
What have you learned about getting a team to peak at the right time of the season, and how much of that is on the leaders of the team?
I've learned that, you want to be the best team in March when you're in every other conference except for the AAC. Seriously. You really want to be peaking because when you get into the tournament, it's anybody's game. Obviously, they give the favorites. And it is on it's player-led because it's coach-led for so long because until guys kind of get their rhythm. And now guys are starting to get their rhythm and it's more player-led. But peaking right now and understanding what we're up against and what we have to do, it's incredible, man. It's almost deflating to the guys probably because they're going, man, how does this work? We did all that work in the non-conference, and we've only lost 2 games in conference, and we're looking like we should have just played a really bad non-conference and try to win every game in conference, like to flip that whole thing. How does that work? So it's really confusing, but it's a really hard deal for us because no matter what you do in non-conference, because we play a hard non-conference every year, and we usually do pretty well, But if you don't win, go undefeated in conference, no one respects it. So that's really tough. When are you going to get everybody's best game?
Yeah, that kind of goes in line with what I was going to ask you here. I mean, throughout the season, especially back in December, you emphasized multiple times, got to play the super hard non-conference schedule, avoid the 8-9 at all costs. And here you are, just 5 losses towards the end of February, and you're teetering right along that line. Some projections have you there already. Do you feel kind of capped out at this point by the conference? Like we can only get to this certain point before you just can't get.
Yeah, the conference. I love our conference. It's harder than people give it credit for, but the nation and the voters won't let you get past a certain point. I'm seeing that now. They just won't let you get past a certain area. It's like, this is where we're going to cap you off at. You can never get past any of these other conferences, no matter what you do. Even if we were 26-0, I feel like we'd still be a 6 seed. I just feel that.
So speaking on you mentioned kind of the conference and the metrics and how everything works, like just based on your understanding of how all that's calculated, do you feel like there are things that y'all could have done even despite wins and losses, like winning convincingly or winning by margin, that would have put you in a different position, or what's your thought on what you could
Yeah, I think margin of victory definitely helps that. I think if you win by more against those teams that we had down, then it's a different view. But yeah, you're getting penalized for wins by 10 or under in this league for sure.
And does that, I guess you don't deem that to be fair, like what are your thoughts on the value of that?
Well, I think if you're up, if we build a lead of 14, 15, you're supposed to go up in your mind. You're supposed to get hungrier for it to go to 20, 25. That's still tough because a lot of teams around the country aren't doing that. They're not beating people by 25 and 30 points. Teams are going to compete. These are really good players that are transferring from high majors. This isn't like JUCO players or low major players that you're playing against. These are like high major players. These guys are transferring from some nice colleges. So when you're saying you're supposed to beat everybody by 25, then that's tough.
Do you think the fact that it is a lot of high major transfers at these other schools, like compared to the JUCOs that you may have seen at schools like Rice back in the day, does that like play a difference to you between like now and then, why it may be harder to kind of run through these perceived weaker leagues or whatever?
Yeah, and I'm not making any excuses for us because we want to take teams and beat them by 20, but you gotta have a lot of things happen in that game for it to go well, right? And we have a new team. We have a totally new team except for Nick Jourdain, and we've done a fantastic job. What I felt like we're supposed to do, we let 2 games go in conference. That happens. That happened to Houston in the past, but Houston won all their other games by 20 plus. But they've lost 2, 3, 4 games in this conference before, but they had so much respect for Houston that they wouldn't drop them like they're dropping for us. They just don't have the respect for us.
Is there a path forward for you guys to maybe earn that kind of respect, or is there just anything there's nothing to do?
I don't think anyone has had to dig out of a 8-9 seed to get a 1 seed over the years. I think they've had 3, 4, 5s, and then they've won a couple games and went to a couple Sweet 16s and started saying, okay, this team is built for the NCAA tournament. But when you get 8-9s, the second round, you're going to play number 1 overall seed in that region. You got to beat the number 1 overall seed. I mean, how many teams are beating the number 1 overall seed in their region in pretty much a home game? It's possible because it happens, but that's what they're asking you to do. They're asking you to play tough non-conference, and they're asking you to win every conference game and then make some noise in the tournament so you can gain your respect. So that's what we have to do.
Taking a little away from the college game, it came out recently that John Morant is one of the high-profile athletes that was hit by that ring of thieves, hitting Joe Burrow, those kind of guys. Having been a former NBA player yourself, what do you think about people targeting high-profile athletes, and how do you guys go about protecting themselves?
Man, I think it just goes on with what's happening in our world, our country. It's like people are going to seize the moment to take advantage of things that they feel like they can take advantage of. And they have too much time on their hands to be sitting around and just trying to hit all the top entertainers, NBA, NFL, players' homes when they know that they're on the road. I mean, it takes a lot of thought. That thought could go into really doing something special or inventing something or whatever, because you have to have a brilliant mind to go into these communities, which are usually gated, figure out a game plan to go into these homes, break into the home, get away with it, and then continue to do so. So I think it's just unfortunate, and who knows when it will ever stop.
You got time for 2 more.
Penny, what is the tenor and the mood in practice been like this week?
It's been It's been a tough week because we lost that game at Wichita, but it's been about hard work. We understand what we're going to have to do to finish out, and it starts off with Sunday and protecting home court. And but the week has been good for us because we've needed the extra rest and we've needed the extra work as well.
What do you take from the first game played down there in Florida to bring to this game?
Yeah, that's hard because we're 13 games in now, and we played them the very first game. So that's 12 games ago. So everybody's different. We're different. They're different. What we did have is great energy on defense, and we shared the ball. And we made shots. We were so locked in because that was the very first conference game, and we wanted to go in and do really well. So the guys understand that, and now we're coming off a loss. You just have to protect home court.
Last one, Kenny.
In the Wichita State game, obviously Dane came out and scored a couple of baskets early on. Seemed like he had a good rhythm, got in some foul trouble. You brought Musa in. Musa has kind of taken a step back in terms of the featured big role for you, and Dane's really taken a step forward. Did you walk out of that game, that Wichita State game, thinking, man, Musa really kind of became the featured big again for us in that game, and have like a little bit more trust or a little bit more, like, did he show you anything different in that game against Wichita State?
I think, the blessing of it is we have 2 starting 5 men. Not a lot of teams around the country have 2 starting 5s, right? So to get those guys to come here was like nothing short of amazing because, they knew that it was a rivalry and it was going to be about minutes. When Dane's not doing well, then you have the opportunity to have a backup like Musa and vice versa. I mean, come on, that's a blessing. Again, I don't know any other teams have those 2 guys. Maybe Michigan with Wolf and Big Vlad, but, we have a luxury. And Musa's playing really well right now, and he stepped in and did what he was supposed to do. And we hope he continues to do so. I don't know about, like, being either of those guys being the showcase big. I think they're both great at what they do. And it's great to have both those options whenever you need them.